because they have their own sensor. Yeah, once I go around.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to Sunday Night Score. My name is Michael Whittaker. So glad you guys are joining me. And I am so excited today to have my friend and incredible multi-talented producer and composer, Kevin Teasley, is going to be with me tonight. Let me just, I have to grab a piece of paper because his credits are so huge that I cannot remember half of these things. So let me go. Let me just read down some of these things. He's a multi-talented guy. Like I said, he's a music director, composer, arranger. First of all, I'm a music director for Jennifer Lopez. Did the music for the Super Bowl concert. He's worked with let's see, the Jacksons, Usher, Catherine McPhee. He's had music on Empire, Star. He's worked with Chris Brown. Many music trailers, as well as he has his own music licensing and trailer music, creative music company called Tonic in Los Angeles. He's done projects for Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, Disney, MGM, Sony, and Paramount. He's done additional music for the Twilight Saga, by Queen Latifah. I mean, it just goes on and on. So I'm so excited to learn from him tonight and get into what it's like to be a multifaceted musician that maybe has a career both in live music as well as producing and music for film and television. So with that said, let me bring on Kevin here. Let me see if I. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, Whitty, thank you for having me. Thank you so
Oh,
much. We
yeah.
are
Thank
way
you.
overdue, my friend. Way overdue.
I know. Well, I'm excited that you're joining us, and man.
Excited to be here. Excited.
Tell me what's going on with you right now. I guess with everything that's going on in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I'm not Los Angeles, the world. Tell me
right.
what's going on as far as music going on right now, and what your mindset is with everything that's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah. That's a great question. I'm pretty sure that what I'm feeling is pretty similar to what a lot of musicians and creatives in general are feeling. Whether you're a dancer or a creative director or a choreographer, um, as a performer in the live space, um, we all know that the concert scene has just kind of gone away. There's a few things like we just did Global Citizen with Jennifer Lopez and some of those remote programs, but the live
Yeah.
concert venue space is, for the most part, we're all predicting 2021 summer.
Wow.
So luckily, like you and I were speaking offline, is that I do a lot of TV and film and trailers and promos and commercial work. So
Yeah.
that, as well as some record stuff. So that keeps, the stress level a little bit more at bay. But it's
Yeah.
still, you still think about it and think about what this new normal is going to look like when things open back up.
Right.
There's definitely going to be some changes, but I miss my touring families that I work with several artists, and you miss the camaraderie, and we're such social beings that you miss. It's funny that I can't wait to see when things get back to normal, because when we all used to hang out, everyone would be in their phones, and
Right.
now you yearn to like have real interaction with people. So
Oh, that's a good
looking
point.
forward to that creative energy and that just that human exchange.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, like your background both in like as a composer, producer has really kind of uh, helped you and ushered you into doing work for artists in their
Right.
live shows, right?
Yeah.
Like creating the whole show, which is some part of it's like almost like a movie, right? Like scoring parts
Yeah.
of the show.
It very much is today's modern pop shows. And when I say pop, I mean, it could be urban music, pop music, country music, um, popular music. Today's shows are very much a visual experience. Not that it wasn't before, but now you're talking video screens and laser
Right.
shows and using time code and everything. And, we live in a world where, even a 10-year-old understands technology and what they see in a movie. So when you go to a live concert, which is 2 hours long, sometimes longer,
Right.
you have to give them the sensibility of like a film. And that's the way I approach it. Whether I'm the MD on the project, the program on the project, or I'm just composing some of the vignettes with the video walls.
Right.
It really did help having that composition background, because you're able to weave in and out of the song into a score, hint back to thematic elements from the song in a score element later. A
Right.
lot of sound design. When I first started doing sound design for shows, I can't remember the exact artist I started with, but I started bringing what I call the Hans Zimmer heavy sound design effects and things like that to
Now
a lot of the live shows.
For people that are joining, we have some people that are joining that they're just producers, or they're just musicians, or they're just they don't know anything. So what is sound
Sure.
design, and what is that exactly, and how is that different than
Sure.
scoring?
Absolutely. There's sound effects, and then there's sound design, and then there's Foley. Now, sound effects can have a Foley element. Foley is just replacement. You're watching a scene in a movie, and someone drops a glass, and you hear the glass crash. That's Foley. Sound effects could be some specialized electrocution sound when someone shows up. Sound design is more of the term that everyone all knows is from like Inception, the term Brahms. So
Right.
you hear the note that goes, "Burn."
Yeah.
That's kind of a sound design thing. Whooshes, things that are transitional elements, things that go zoom, and it shows you all the things. That's more sound design. Sound
Awesome.
effects are more things that are natural in nature. The sound is natural itself.
Right.
Sound design is more of a hybrid thing where you're creating things from synthesis or your own field recordings, which I love to do is my own field recordings, and then manipulate that to be some new sound.
Yeah.
Impacts, whooshes, drones, all those things would be considered sound design. And artists really love that because it gives them the concert, the cinematic, and it gives them that epic feeling that they're looking for in their concerts, just like you would see in a movie.
Yeah, that's amazing. That must just be incredible, hearing that and doing that, but then seeing a like huge stadium of people, and that whole sound design element come into life in front of you.
Right. It never gets old. Every time I see it, I was lucky enough to work with a fellow MD, Keith Harris, on the latest Backstreet Boys tour, and I did a lot of sound design and some additional little music production things. But he came up with this epic opening, and we collaborated on that. And I put a ton of sound design in it. And when he sent me the video, and I wasn't even at the rehearsals, it just gave me goosebumps.
Cool.
The Jennifer Lopez tours, we did a lot of video vignettes and the intros. When you can just hear the audience start to get excited when they know the show is about to begin,
right?
It never gets old. And you think about it all started in your head, and then you created it, and then you see it manifest. It just never gets old.
That's awesome. So let's transition maybe from your live shows and what you do to being, let's talk about being a multifaceted musician, from the standpoint that you're not only doing your live stuff, you're doing film and TV. Tell me about some of the film and TV work you do, some of the
Mhm.
licensing thing you do, and if you're an up and coming composer or if you're an up and coming or producer, what are some ways to get your music into film and television?
Great question. Uh, I'll take the first part about getting your music in is that first thing you need to do is love music licensing, love trailers or love films. You have to be a lover of films, not just the film music, because if you just love the music, you're
Mm-hmm.
only going to compose music that really doesn't work with the picture. So you really have to be a fan of the craft, whether it's a music video, a commercial. You really have to be a cool nerd in really loving that, and study the craft, study the industry, study the business. You can be a very talented person, but if you don't have an understanding of the formula for a trailer or a commercial and bumpers and things like that, your music will be great music, but
Right.
be hard to have it work for you because it's just hard to edit it. So that's the first part. That's a conversation that we probably could get into as far as understanding the space. The
Sure.
second part is, and loving it. The second part is you really have to build your catalog. And I believe it was John Williams that said, just like going to the gym and doing ab workouts, you have to compose every day.
Mm.
You can't just do it for 2 months and say, oh, I don't have a six pack. Well, you just can't write music for 6 months and try to get licensing and then quit, say, oh, this is not working for me. You really have to write something. Not doesn't have to be fully,
Develop.
completed and
Yeah.
manifested, but it just needs to be sketches where you have the main elements. So when you get a phone call, you have the base material to start, saying, oh, this might work or this idea might work.
Yeah.
So building that catalog, and I'm not just talking about 10 songs or 10 cues. What's the difference between a song and a cue? We can get into, but you have to have enough catalog so that when you do approach a company like me or you or some of the other companies, or do it on your own, if you have 10 cues and there are 10 cues, each of the 10 are in different styles, that company really doesn't know what to do with your music.
Right.
Pick 1 to 3 things that you're really extremely good at and write a bunch of cues in that. And then once you build that, then it gives a company or yourself more power to try to get licensing. The licensing companies, I'm not a huge licensing company like the big music libraries,
Right.
and with 30 people on staff as reps. So when you do get in contact with the company, make sure that you know what types of music they license. Some do more orchestral, some do more songs, some do more with Latin music, some do more with urban. You don't want to send an urban licensing company or a country music licensing company Hans Zimmer type cues. They're going to be like, okay, this person didn't even do their research on what we do, and not just overwhelm them with material.
Right.
But it's such a, if it happens for you overnight, wonderful. We all applaud you. But for the most part, it's like going to the gym. You're not going to see a 6 pack of abs after one workout. You really have to be committed to being in the space,
Absolutely.
or align yourself with a company that has a good track record. And you may not get a license for 3 or 4 years. It just may be that way. And then you'll get start seeing yourself get more searches. That's one of the reasons why our company, Tonic, has a balanced portfolio between sound design and actual music cues,
Mm-hmm.
because you really just want to get on that cue sheet. Once you get on that cue sheet, those assets go around town and they start going, oh, I want to hear more about real, Whittaker and Teasley. Who is this? So it's really, you really want to get on those cue sheets. But it's a very, it's an interesting question because what worked for me may not work for someone else. I was very diligent in building a team. And I've been doing this now for maybe 18 years. And the first 3 to 5 years were tough,
Right.
but we were committed to it and stuck with it, and it did work out.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point you make just about learning your craft and also about it's kind of a marathon, not a sprint. In
Absolutely.
transitioning, you remember when you just started playing and how long it took to be an excellent player. That took a long time. So you can
Long time.
imagine as you transition into film and TV, you can use those skills, but it's a new skill set that you're gonna have to learn, I think. And
Absolutely.
I was fortunate. I went to school for film scoring. I went back to UCLA, and they hired me. Right. I mean, I think I met you right at the as I got that gig for Fox where I was scoring the Power Rangers TV show,
Yes, yes.
and so I was really green, and I was blessed to get that gig because there's so much competition, right? I feel
hmm
like there's people that are really good at this out there already. So to for me to stop doing my music gigs and go back to school and just studied what it is to do this, for me
Right.
it's been the best experience of my life because at the end of the day film and TV is the gift that keeps on giving in a lot
It
of
really
ways,
does.
as far as royalties. And when things aren't going, like in the case of COVID-19 right
hmm
now, we're all looking for other sources of income.
Right, right. And um, when we were touching on earlier, is that two things that if you quit, then you've given your space up in the universal queue for your time, and that
Ah,
it
that's
is going to
awesome.
be your time. And sometimes you just have to wait for your space in the universal queue that when it's going to be your time. And a lot of times, most composers, and I don't have facts in front of me to prove this. This is just my heart that kind of knows this. Most of us don't wake up and say, I want to be a composer, and the next day you're scoring Star Wars. You start as an intern, you start doing additional music, you start scoring some scenes for another composer. And then what happens is that composer gets a call to do a film score, and they go, I'm too busy, but one of my past assistants maybe is a good chance to do that. And it builds up your reel.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of the technical terms, as you know, that, you know,
That's how Jermaine got started.
absolutely.
In our conversation, Sunday Night Score last week, he was on, and we're all friends. So, I mean, he started like that, working for other composers.
Yes, absolutely. And like for me, my first composing gig was I was in college and I assisted Stu Gardner back in Richmond, Virginia. I was going to Virginia Union University, and he called the school and was looking for composers and transcribers. My first show was assisting him in composing for. This is really dating myself right now, but it was a
Right.
show called A Different World.
Mm-hmm.
That was after the Cosby Show and
I
Living
remember that.
Single.
Yeah.
Yeah, Living Single, and I learned a lot of. I was maybe 17 or 18 at the time, like right out of high school, and I learned a lot of the language that's not the same as if you're on a jazz gig or a pop gig. There is a film and TV music
Lingo.
language
Yeah.
on a creative level and a technical level. So he gave me my first shot at assisting him, and I'm forever grateful to him for giving me that shot as a young 18-year-old.
Yeah. My friend, the way I got the Power Rangers gig was I was doing a jazz gig, and Kenny Burgomaster, who is a great LA composer, and he's done lots of
Mm-hmm.
Disney shows, he came to my gig, and he said, "What are you doing, man?" And we were talking just regular music talk, and I said, "Well, I'm going to school for film scoring," and Kenny was scoring the Power Rangers at the time, and he said, "Well, you know what? I'm tired of scoring the Power Rangers, which was like wall to wall fight music,"
Right.
and so he said they're looking for a composer because I'm hoping they'll put me on a new show. And he said, "Would you like to come in and audition?" And it was unpaid, and I went in there
Right.
and I worked for 2 weeks straight for free, scoring the show and assisting Kenny, and it ended up giving me the gig. And so it was just, it's kind of weird how things happen like that through
Right.
relationships,
It
and
truly is all about relationships. And, even though you were working for free monetarily, the education that you received were prepare you for everything else. It's
yeah,
such a fast paced thing. And, you can't toil over every single note like you were to do a piece of concert music, classical or concert music that you're commissioned for.
right,
You really have to move fast. Deadlines are faster than ever. And, the technology is here. So mock-ups need to sound as good as, or at least believable, to a real orchestra.
right.
But like all those things are like really important, that you take all of that information as you go. Um, and, it helps you shape also your musical voice. Um, it's who you want to, what you want to convey as a musical composer. Like, what is your voice? When you think of Hans Zimmer, you hear, everyone kind of knows the spirit of his music.
Sure.
Marco Beltrami, all these guys. You kind of hear Brian Tyler. You kind of know the kind of things they do, um, and that's what I wanted to bring. And I'm happy to see that now. Not that it hasn't happened in the history of TV or film, but there are a lot of shows who are embracing people who had more of a music production background and
Right.
not just composing. Junkie XL passed before he was Tom Holkenberg that we all know now. Is that he
Right.
was, a producer. And I'm remiss. Please forgive me. The guys who do Stranger Things, they
Yeah.
are, a production team. Daft Punk with Tron and things like that. So these things, just because you do music production doesn't mean you can't do scoring. Just because you do scoring doesn't mean you can't do music
Well,
production.
I would go one step further
Mm-hmm.
in that, saying it's almost a necessity these days to be composer. Is very much the line is blurred with producer, because
100%.
you have to create something. Not many shows are want John Williams. It just almost seems out of place in a
Right.
lot of film and TV. So I
Sure.
feel like guys like us that grew up with a production background or a producing background, it's a good opportunity and a good time for you to create something that is unique to your voice, like you said.
For sure. And it's recognizing the times that we live in now.
Yeah.
We live in a time now where, not even in music, the lines are blurred. You have country rap music and you have, a pop star making a song with a classical star. That's the kind of the generation, of where we are as a collective consciousness, that we all kind of go, it's all kind of blurring together. Saying
Yeah.
that means that if you don't do both, that's not a bad or a good thing. And if you
Right.
do both, it's not a bad or a good thing. It's just your voice. I think for me, what helped me is all I can speak to is that, like you were saying, being able to have one foot in both spaces helped me really understand, how to, you know, sometimes even when it's just an underscore piece, that I always try to think about melody that doesn't get in the way. That's the
Yeah.
song person in me, that I always wanted to have some sort of melody in there and not make it too complicated. It's easy for us musicians, whether we're a freshman in college and you're doing a jazz arranging project, you want to put everything that you've ever learned in one bar,
Yeah.
So I remember my college professor, Dr. Weldon Hill, told me that. He said, Kevin, this is some great stuff you're writing, but you don't have to put it all in the first two bars, and that's what happens, is that you have to remember that
You're
James
serving the
Venable,
scene. You're serving
100%.
the, yeah.
You mentioned UCLA. James Venable was one of my professors at UCLA Film
Yeah.
Extension when I studied film scoring. And one thing that he said that I took with me is, he says when he's sitting with a director or an audience, he doesn't want the director to listen to the music. He wants them to watch the film.
Right.
And if you look at the film as a whole, then you might just go, the music is beautiful, but may or may not be able to hum one single thing. It just all fits so perfectly hand in glove that the music isn't really taking your attention when it shouldn't. And that's what new composers, whether you're 15 or 55, that sometimes you get in your own way by putting too much music. You're doing too much music.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. We
Yeah,
had a comment from Mark Broussard. I see you're watching, who's an incredible singer. That he pointed out Gaga and Tony Bennett, like marriages of different styles of music together is kind of where a lot of things are going. I feel like in trailers and stuff like that, and it's a good
absolutely.
transition to maybe the technical part and the musical part of what is trailer music versus underscore music. Can you talk a
Yes,
little bit about that?
yes, sure. And I love when people ask this question because I love to share this information because I want to see everyone succeed. Is that when you watch a trailer, all trailers are in 3 acts. And when you understand that the trailer's in 3 acts, then you can have one piece of music that spans the whole arc of the trailer, which is pretty rare, but it
Right.
does happen. But then there's that first, exposition type act, that prologue type act at the beginning where they're introducing the characters and
Right.
that vistas and where the story takes place. That middle act is more about, okay, getting into the storyline. And then that third act is usually, if it's an adventure movie, the culmination of everything, all the montages and everything. A trailer cue in and of itself could be anything. Kanye West's song Jesus Walks was the trailer cue for Jarhead back in the day. So anything can be a trailer cue. The traditional trailer score is what most of us know from some of the godfathers who created trailer music, like Immediate Music, Pfeiffer Brothers, those guys. It's all the type of music that you hear. This
Right.
that sort of thing. That is what you call trailer music, but it's more of the intention. So dance music is called dance music because its intention is to make you dance.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Commercial music for like a 30-second commercial, it can again be a song, but if you're a composer, the intention, the formula that you write it is to be intended for a 30-second commercial. There's the 5 seconds up front, there's the 20 seconds of music, and the 5 second ring out at the end for the dealer tag or the product tag.
Right.
That's the intention. So with trailer music, it's really in those 3 acts. There's inherent tempos that trailer editors cut to. That's just in their body. There's certain tempos that work for dramas, rom-coms, thrillers, suspense movies. When you kind of know the pacing of that, you kind of know what your trailer cue is going to be. Also,
Yeah.
what's important to realize in trailer cues is that it's heavy in dialogue. So you can't have wall-to-wall music. If you're going to have success compositionally in trailer music, if you understand, for instance, and forgive my acting, if you have guy saying, "When I see you, you better have my money." Music, ring out. I don't owe you any money. And then
Yeah.
we want to see about that. You have to give your cue spaces for the dialogue because you have to remember
Yeah.
trailers are really 2.5 minute commercials or a minute 45 to 2.5 minute commercials. They're selling the film, they're selling the actors. So you have to build in your spaces for that cue. If your cue just starts off from go and it's just wall to wall, if it's that act 3 cue where it's a montage, it could work. But that's why I say it's important to go to Apple trailers, what I do, and I watch every trailer, big films to independent films, and you watch and you start seeing, oh, this is the kind of the formula. This is kind of what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, I see how they're adding space. But again, it's about the intention. Anything can be a trailer cue depending on the movie, but it's just how you construct it so that it fits for that,
I
trailer advertising.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think thinking like an editor, like a music editor, so you can have like kind of thinking about what's different from score. You can have a score that's going, dun-dun-dun-dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, and it's like it's wall to wall music, but there's no edit points.
No
So
edit
if
points.
you watch trailers is like zoom, we're da zoom, dun
So
dun dun dun. Like they want edit
100%.
points, and if your music
Right.
has no edit points, there's nothing to pull the listener in with them visually. So they're probably going to find some other cue that's going to have an impact with edit points,
Absolutely.
you know?
And that's what goes back to what we were saying earlier is that, love the craft, really look at trailers and see how that formula works. And,
Yeah.
look up the trailer music companies and see what they're doing and talk to editors. Trailer editors will be brutally honest with you that, what's working, what's not working. What if you did this, it would work. But by having those clean in points and having those clean out points,
Yeah.
one of the easiest ways I explain to people is that even if you have a song, instead of going straight from your verse to your pre-chorus, put 2 bars of a ring out after that verse before you go to the ring out. It helps it be an edit point if your intention is for that to be a trailer cue. So if you're doing a rom-com trailer cue that's meant to sound like an indie band, guitar-driven cue, if you put a ring out in there, then it lets the editor be able to say, okay, I can ring this out now and start another cue. Those are things that if people are friends with composers like us, that we could tell them, or that's just something that you learn over time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, when I first moved to LA from Virginia, I didn't know any of this. I had to learn the hard way, so this could help someone from having years of frustration of why aren't people using my cues, because I'm not giving these edit points. And you always have to remember that when they're dialogue heavy, watch in your trailer cue the ranges of which you put things in the forefront. Because if your cue is never giving the dialogue, female or male dialogue, I'm always very cognizant of that. If I'm doing a cue that my intention is for it to be for female superheroes, like Wonder Woman, I make sure that I don't put anything in the way of where the female character would speak. I make sure the strings are a little bit lower. I add some other more percussion. If it's a male character, I'll put things, I just try to embrace them around tonality to not get in the way when the person goes to mix on the dub stage.
Yeah. And a lot of trailer music libraries now, it's really a necessity that you deliver stems. Stems being, for you guys that are watching, stems are we'll have breakouts of the percussion, we'll have breakouts of the string. If there's a melody part, we take that out so that they can mix and match your music if there's dialogue going on or some other special effect,
And what's great about that on a business level is that, let's say it's an orchestral cue. Let's say it's strings, heavy percussion like action percussion. When you do the stems, if you're a savvy composer or business, you'll take that percussion stem and cut that up into a 30-second percussion stem. And now that's used for a promo for Fox or for FX Network. So you're not, I do think there's a big difference between working faster and efficient.
Nothing goes to waste, right?
Nothing goes to waste. So you're using that. Even when we do sessions, if we're renting taiko drums, after we do the taiko drum cue, we'll do one shots. And then, I'll have samples of one shots of my own things that I do, then make into the sound design. Yeah. So no session, no minute, no second, no musician is ever going to waste. And then that cue, let's say, there's a, in that cue, the opening might have had, like you said, ga 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 ga, space for dialogue, ga 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 ga. We'll then chop those up and make a whole sound design album called Trailer Openers, where they don't have to worry about for $15,000 licensing that whole cue just to get bubba bubba bump bubba bubba bump. They can get just the bubba bump for $1,500 and not even have to worry about the rest of the cue. And when I say get it, they license it for the trailer advertising.
Right. Sure. Let's make a quick transition here. Just for you guys watching, again, I'm trying to do this Sunday night thing while this COVID is going on, and I'm hoping that you guys are digging it and you're learning something, and if you're really interested in this music as well, coming August 1st, I'm hoping I will have my film scoring program out at filmscoreseminar.com. And
congratulations, yeah.
Well, thank you. It's a comprehensive overview of what film scoring is, from the technical aspects of locking your music to picture, to scoring in different styles, we interview the entire orchestra
Nice.
and find out the ranges of every instrument. What are the psychological, emotional uses of all the instruments? And then we get into sound design and technology, like using Vienna Ensemble Pro,
Hmm.
creating risers and all kinds of effects. So it's
Nice.
there's really nothing like it out there. So I got to give
I want
my
to sign up.
quick ad.
I'm definitely signing up.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm sitting in the front row, brother.
And if you're enjoying this show, and Kevin, again, thank you so much for
Oh, thank you for
being a
having me.
part. I'm gonna
Sure.
put. We're trying to raise some money to increase the opportunity here for cameras and stuff like that. So I put a little PayPal thing there if you're interested. Absolutely no pressure to do that.
Absolutely.
But let's maybe transition right now, if it's cool with you,
Hmm.
to we talked about maybe trailerizing your music. So there's a lot of artists that are watching this that they have music and they think, well, would this be good for film and TV? And what does it mean to trailerize
Hmm.
a song so that it
Hmm.
would fit in for a license for a promo, or an in movie song could be anything. It could be any
Anything.
style. But when we get into promos and we get into trailers, it's a little bit different. And maybe you can explain what that means.
Yeah. And I've done quite a bit of that, of trailerizing, songs for promos and trailers, and it goes back to, for me, everything is about intent. I'll ask someone, "Hey, your song, if it was in a trailer, what trailer would you think it would be in?" And if they were to say, "Oh, I think it would be in, Transformers, whatever," and I would ask them, "Well, what about that song makes you think it's would fit for Transformers?" And let me see the lyrics, or because there could be an interesting juxtaposition, even if it's a ballad, and they play off of it being
Yeah.
something solemn. I always want to know what they think that song could be used for. I will always, and you will always have your thoughts on what it could be used for. First of all, I want to know that. Then there's a little trick that I do. Maybe other people do it as well. I'll go to Apple Trailers on one of my computers. I'll turn the volume off. And let's say I think there's a song that I'm working with someone that would work for a trailer. I'll play that trailer with no sound and then just play their song. And a lot of times, magically, things will just hit. And you kind of go, okay, this song kind of works. And we're taking out of the equation if the performance is good. We're uh, acknowledging that we think it's a great song, great performance, emotional performance. So that's
Right.
a given in this formula. If I can just see that it just kind of works, the spacing and the breath is the second thing. Then I'll ask the artist, "Are you cool with me taking things out of context?" And it's a legalese term that we know that many artists don't want you to use their music out of context, meaning do not chop it up outside of the arrangement that it was originally intended.
Right.
If the verse is 8 bars, they want that verse 8 bars, and they want it continuous from where you started. It must continue. It can't be cut up. If they're okay with taking it out of context, then I will add those spaces in the song. So let's say the song is great for a love movie, and let's say the first line goes, A B C, and then I'll let it ring out so the character in the movie in the dialogue can say, you know, he first met her in high school. E F G. She
I
didn't
love
love him.
that. Yeah.
Like I'll try to
That's
make
good.
sure that it's spaces, and that's the most important thing. Is that if it's for TV and trailer advertisement, you have to leave these spaces. So if the artist is okay with these spaces, then we can experiment with that as well. We need stems because the editor there may want to just use your chorus but not use your verses, things like that.
Yeah.
um, in that, what we do, and is another interesting thing, is that in the cover world slash artist, is there's also things like you heard the way Miguel took Beyonce's Crazy in Love and used that for 50 Shades of Grey. He
Mm-hmm.
did like a dark version of it,
Right.
which was made people say, "Oh, that's interesting." Sometimes with artists, I'll say, "You know what? You have a great voice and great songwriting ability. Maybe your songs don't necessarily, in my opinion, work for trailers right now, but you're a great talent. So let's do some things that if you as an artist are placed in a trailer, it will bring attention to your artist catalog as an artist,
Right.
just your untouched things. So if an artist is open to that, not only financially, but exposure to other people going, where did that song come from, that trailer? It helps, add interest in their own catalog. But I would say that if you want it to be licensed, long intros, necessarily meandering intros don't work. You
Right.
really have to get to it because editors are really skimming these songs and they have hundreds of songs that they're listening to, even if you're a company that they work with a lot. So get the song to the point, or the song/cue to the point, have your break points, and make sure that you give those ring outs. But the trailerization of cues might also mean augmenting it, adding orchestra. There's a few hip hop urban producers that I work with that give me beats. And one of the things I say is, in a positive way, I go, I don't want you necessarily to understand how to work trailers, because that might affect you as a creative person. You do what you do very well. And when you pass over the stems, we'll chop it up to make a trailer. Because if I have you thinking about a trailer, then it might take away from the original spirit or intent of your song, of what made it great in the first place. There's a lot of ways to approach it. It's kind of a case by case basis, but it's a very rewarding thing if you do it right.
Yeah. We had a question online that was, and it was actually from Mark. Have you ever seen a trailer tailored to a song as opposed to the inverse? And I think sure, yeah. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
tons of trailers where they will do the first half of it could be like your epic orchestral hybrid
Mm-hmm.
sound design, and then they morph into a pop song or a Coldplay
Right.
song, a ballad or something completely opposite. I
Right.
call that congruence. When what's going on the screen, it could be like that Platoon moment where they jump to Samuel Barber
Mm-hmm.
Adagio for
Adagio for
strings.
strings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that is a good place where they might keep your song intact.
Sure. Yeah. And even to his question is that when you're working with composers or trailer music companies or licensing companies like us, we're very flexible in altering the cue if they wanted it altered to fix the trailer.
Right.
When you're working with a lot of record labels, the song is kind of the song, So, and if that creative direction is to really use that song again, back to the Kanye West "Jesus Walks" for Jarhead, they will cut that trailer to that song. The intent is to make the trailer fit
Yeah.
that song, but it's pretty flexible. Sometimes if it's a pretty big epic trailer cue in the traditional orchestral sense,
Mm-hmm.
they'll cut to it, but they may chop up and cut your cue. And they'll come to you and ask you, hey, the edits that we did aren't really clean because it's an orchestral cue and things are ringing over.
Yeah.
They may come to you and say, here's our edit. Can you go back to your session and your stems and make it kind of be this composition? And the answer, of course, is always yes, because you don't want to lose a big trailer placement, because you don't want to go and alter your,
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll even say, this would be great if it was, 5 BPM faster. It's a cue you did 4 years ago, which is a big topic amount of asset management and project management. You want to be able to go and find that project, speed it up 5 BPM and send it back to them, within a couple of hours. So that's very important as far as the client-based services industry of that world.
I think it's interesting. I've told people over the years that come from the artist side, I was like, don't hold on to your music so tightly that it's going to inhibit you from moving forward. Especially, we all have the perception of that music has a value. Yes, it has a value, but the value of your music or anything is what the consumer is willing to pay for it.
Sure.
And so, I've had you could get a small license. Like I had a license last month for MTV. What is that show on MTV? It's the one where the pregnant mom teens or something like that.
Pregnant teen moms or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
it was. I mean, I won't say the amount of the license because they're clients, but
No, sure,
it
sure,
wasn't
sure.
a lot of money. But you know what? I didn't hold on to that cue so tightly that I'm going to uh, miss an opportunity to work with somebody. It all comes around,
No,
and
sure.
you
Yeah,
you
I
don't
have
understand
like
what I'm saying?
I'm so glad because we didn't even talk about this. I'm glad that you brought that up because I have like a few very in deep feelings about that. Is that first of all, you have to consider yourself an infinite well of creativity. You're always going to create what you thought was the best thing that you ever composed 2 years ago.
You're gonna
You
hate
got
it.
better things coming.
Yeah.
Right. Second part of that is there isn't the intrinsic value of the music in what we do ultimately is you. You're the intrinsic value of that. The third thing of that is you've now built a relationship with that person that you've done a solid for, and they'll remember you as MTV. That I'm just making up numbers. Whitty would normally license his song for $10,000. He did it for 2,500. I'm going to come back to him when I get another show, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to get 50 of his cues. Maybe not at 10,000, but maybe at 5,000, because it's all about numbers. Because you want that music on that cue sheet to generate those royalties.
Right.
Another part of that is it also gives you a positive leverage that when you go back to negotiate next time, you're able to say, hey, remember this time I did that. And within that, in your contract and your agreement, you can always put in there on a non-presidential basis, meaning that it's in the contract that everyone knows, whether you're admitting yourself or you have a publisher admitting, that this is not the price of the cue. This is on a non-presidential basis, meaning they're not setting a precedent that this is the rate of my cues every single time. And the last thing is, what publishers will tell you, whether you're the huge music libraries or on the record side, publishing is a business of breadcrumbs, meaning one cue will get you 500, one will get you 5,000, one on Celestial News will get you a blanket deal, and one of the networks $250. But all you're looking at when you go into this business is all those little crumbs make a loaf of bread. And by the end
Amen,
of that
dude.
month, you have $20,000, or even if you only have 2,000, even if you have 200, whatever it is that you make, it's because you have it out there. And what you have to remember is an editor that worked on Power Rangers with you years ago might be working on NCIS now.
Right.
And he takes his preferred bin of music cues with them. Him or her takes that with them. And when they work on the new show, they go, oh, I use this cue from Whitty. I use this cue from Teasley. I use that sound design from this person. Editors move around. Showrunners move around. Producers move around. Mixers move around. So you want your stuff around. All that being said, yes, you don't want to undervalue your music, your craft, your art. You don't want to undervalue, but you also have to have realistic expectations on what the prices are. There's certain blanket deals at CBS, no matter where you are, MTV, NBC, where it's MFN. For those of your watchers who don't know, it stands for Most Favored Nations, means everybody makes the same.
Right.
So they
It's
don't
a
want to go to
needle drop fee. They'll say,
right.
it's another term for this is what it. Anytime we use your music, this is our arrangement. Yeah.
Yes, and I will say that for me, that philosophy has not hurt me at all. That philosophy has helped me build relationships, and that breadcrumb. Sometimes those breadcrumbs make a big loaf of bread. Sometimes it makes a muffin, but you just keep knowing that it's cyclical, and that's money that keeps coming every quarter, every year, and you're building your catalog, because the more you have your catalog placed in these shows, and I'm sure you go through this all the time, they inevitably call you, email you back and say, what else do you have?
Right.
I thought about you for this show. That relationship and that money that you're making. And the last part before I can finish is that you also have to understand what your monthly overhead is. So that also helps you understand if you spent $5,000 making a cue, if it's at MFN or needle drop fees at $250, you know that how many times you have to license that cue just to break even. So if you have 10 cues and all of them cost you $5,000 to make, from musicians to mixer to mastering, that's a lot of licensing that has to happen. I'm not saying do things on the cheap. I'm saying do things where it all makes sense. Let's say you're doing 20 rock cues. Well, over the course of a weekend, you make 20 rock cues and you've done all 20 of them in a weekend, and you pay everyone a day rate and you pay everyone fair fees and things like that. At least, and then before they go, you get some one shots, and then you get these sorts of things. All that being said is, yes, please negotiate with the networks. I'm not saying that you have to take what they're offering. It's up to you as a composer and a company, but I would strongly suggest that everyone consider negotiating and having a very flexible rate card, so to speak.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah. We had a question online that was, how does one, and this is probably the biggest question that up and coming composers and producers are going to ask us: how does one get a job composing for trailers, commercials, Netflix, etc.? I have reels on Vimeo. Who do I send it to? Who do I connect with? And
right,
that's a very complex question, and it doesn't always happen the same for everybody. But
for everyone, right? I can tell you what I did and still do is that no matter what gig I'm on, and I'll just make it more universal. First of all, I am a nerd, and I just do my research. I will go to any of the numerous websites or directories online, and I would look up, like the person said, Netflix. I would look up who the music supervisors are over at Netflix, who the music licensing office is, who are the assistant music licensors, who are the music coordinators. There's several different positions. The music assistant music coordinators, all these sorts of things. First, I'd go out and find out who they are. I would look at the Netflix and see what shows are on the slates. There's several resources where you can go and see what the slates are for any network or any film studio. One of the things that has never worked for me per se, a cold email or a cold call has actually never worked for me.
Right.
Does that mean it would work for somebody else? Yes. For me, it's all come from
relationship.
I met Whitty at Oasis 15 years ago. I met Jermaine at Oasis 15 years ago. Hey, this music supervisor used to be a junior music supervisor 20 years ago.
Right.
I go to, again, living in Nashville, New York, and LA, they're all epicenters. So we do have the luxury in LA of having a lot of events, a lot of seminars,
yes,
a lot of organizations, and not only befriending naturally people, but other composers. But I think people have to realize that you have to become friends with, not for hidden agendas, but just in general. You never know where your name from the hat's going to come from. It could come from the hairstylist. It could come from the show carpenter. It could come from the guy in the mix truck out in the broadcast truck.
Right.
It could come from the actor. I've gotten calls to do TV shows and TV films from knowing the actual actor, or being a friend of someone. It really is. And I know this may sound frustrating, there's really no hard and fast answer to that. Everyone's story is going to be a little different. Somebody may luck up and their next door neighbor is a producer for HBO. That could happen. But for me, it was just doing the best work I could, doing my research, and just trying to meet as many people as I can. I will say, I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia. It was a little tougher when I was in Richmond, Virginia than when I moved to LA. That's not saying that I advocate anyone to move or anything like that, but it is an acknowledgement of being in these epicenters, or at least visiting.
Visiting,
before I moved to LA, I would come out and visit for short periods of time, and I would try to, however I could, book meetings. I would even, to someone now, go to the ASCAP Expo, go to SCL's website, go to NARIP's, NARIP's website. They all do like things like you're doing, like seminars and music supervisor roundtables where they critique music and things like that. You can send your music in. But it really is, the one answer I can say that I know will definitely work in a bad way is to not do anything.
Yeah.
It's that not doing anything, you definitely won't get a shot. Try everything you can, but make sure um, that we all know universally, never be a pest, never over email people. I do think that cold calling doesn't work. I don't think it's a good
Yeah.
philosophy and definitely not for me. But I do try to, what does work for me, I do ask for referrals or introductions from fellow musicians. So let's say I needed a country guitarist for TV cue because I'm doing something on TV. I was like, hey, Whitty, you live in Nashville.
Yeah.
Can you recommend someone? The same thing happens for a composer. Um, Netflix calls you or me, we're busy. That person that emailed, we say, hey, let's see your reel. Oh, this person might. But also to remember is, and this is just assuming, that it's just not the music. It's understanding deadlines. It's understanding how to do final deliverables. It's understanding how to answer an email. It's understanding how to send an invoice. It's just not your skill set. Every composer, music director, or successful business person for that matter, they understand business. And
Right.
that, let's say it's a session and I hire John Doe as a composer, if I'm a TV producer, are you going to show up with 15 people in your entourage? That's not proper etiquette. It's understanding business, studio, TV etiquette, and how to deliver to the editor, what to ask for from the editor, window burns, time code. So outside of the music, which is after a certain point, everyone's talented. After a certain point, everyone's badass. After that, it's who do I
Right.
trust with my TV or film? Am I going to send this to someone who's really cool, but are they going to understand how to send this back for playback for the stage? Or am I going to give it to someone who even might be a little bit more expensive, but I know they know what they're doing. So I always tell people wanting to get in, try to align yourself with other composers, because all of us as composers, we're all looking for help and we're all looking for that next talented person
Yeah.
to be a part of your team. And then sometimes, not all the time, I'm not saying to be an intern because or an assistant composer for ulterior motives. You want to get in to learn, and that's kind of like the
Yeah.
farm system to get your thing. So, but yeah, I wish I had a better answer, but as mixed up
No,
as
that's
that
a
is,
good
that's kind of
answer,
how it
man.
is.
I
Yeah,
think it's great. I think I've said this on everything, and I say it to my classes, my film scoring classes. If you make learning and being the best you can be your highest goal, then the rest of it
it'll
will
fall into
come to
place.
you.
Yeah,
Learning
yeah,
to me, because music career is up and down, up and down, and you know it. But I can always be learning. I can always be improving, and my reward and my sense of myself can't be uh, how much money I'm making this month or next month. My reward is, am I growing as a human being? Am I growing in my
absolutely,
knowledge of music? And when it comes to people and humans that are in the industry, you don't approach people from the standpoint that I want something from you. You approach them that this person is a valuable person, and you want to grow a real friendship with them. Even if you're not best buddies, you want to care about them. Ask them about their family. Ask them about things
absolutely.
that are not. You have to come. You need to be human. You need to be kind, and that's something that we can all remember when we're.
That's very important because I say something very similar in that at the end of the day, back to everyone being talented, after that litmus is passed,
Yeah.
you have to see these people every day, whether it's a tour, a TV show, a film, that you want to enjoy to see the people you see every day. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to get along every day. Everyone's a robot and they just come in looking like Sunnydale, whenever they
Right.
come in. No one has a perfect day. Everybody has things going on in their life. But honestly, no one wants to work with the jerk or the person that's like, Debbie Downer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to make sure that you do know you have to work with people. You want people to extend you grace. You have to extend them grace. Like you were saying, is that everyone's not going to have the best days. It's very stressful. It's very fun. It's high stress, high reward.
Mm-hmm.
that comes along with it. But you have to see these people every day. And so you do want to care about them, like you're saying. And it's also on the, like you said, about not wanting something from someone, is that you always have to be and present that you are also a valuable resource, or can be a valuable resource to them.
That's
whether
awesome,
it's you're younger, or even if you're older, or you're new to it, so your rates might not be as high as someone else, or you're on the East Coast and the composer on the West Coast, so you can get something to them before they wake up the next morning. Whatever that added, or you're a multi-instrumentalist, you play drums, bass, and guitar equally well, so that composer can say, I can come to you for these cues, and you play all these instruments and all that sort of stuff. Or you have a studio like you have, where you can actually track your live instruments.
Right.
Most of the time it's about, a lot of times we may not expand our circles as quickly as we normally might, because there's also confidentiality that you have to keep in mind. People having the etiquette of, if I send you a scene from a movie or a TV show to score, that it's not leaked on the internet, it's not on your Instagram page before the movie comes out, or if it's a live concert, you're not taking, the music is posted on your, like I said, Facebook page before the first concert. It's those things why people, keep their circles a little bit smaller. At the same time, you always are looking for that resource, to add to your team, because let's be honest, that person may be your assistant one day, next day they're Hans Zimmer, they're the next Hans Zimmer, and they'll come back to you because you gave them a shot, that sort of thing. So it really is about this circle of life, so to speak, of you give and you give back, sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of reached our hour time. An hour has gone by so fast, and
I know, man.
I am so thankful that you're willing to do this. We haven't watched anything. Is there something you want to that I can play?
I mean, again, I'll defer to you as far as how many of your, what most of your viewers are into. I sent you some commercials. I sent you.
There was a cool J-Lo commercial. Is it Promise?
I recently did a J-Lo commercial for her new perfume line, Promise.
Okay.
And that's kind of like what we talked about, is that, being able to do songs and score.
Yes.
But this one is a song, but it's really a cue. It's a pop, Selena Gomez-ish, reggaeton type pop type of thing that you would hear on the radio now, but it's for her perfume. And I thought it would be great to do something with that underpinning, because she is, of Latin descent, and also, but it still had some beauty elements in it. It wasn't a hardcore dance hall type of reggaeton thing. Because it was a perfume and she is a female, I wanted it to still have some light elements. And that's what we were talking about earlier, of kind of knowing the intention of the music and what you want to convey. So that probably would be a good one to show.
Well, okay, cool. Let me, because I didn't tie this to a clip like I did before, let me just open this up.
I made myself a promise
try and find it.
to love who I am, to believe in all my dreams, no matter what came my
There it
way.
is. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Let me just see if I can
I made
get this
myself
going.
a promise.
All right, let me switch screens, everybody, and let's go to main screen. Hold on one sec, Kev.
Take your time.
All right, so this is a commercial for J-Lo. Promise was a pop tune that he did, and let's check it out.
I made myself a promise to love who I am, to believe in all my dreams, no matter what came my way. I made a promise. What's yours? Promise.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. What I love about the J-Lo music family is that she does her and her manager Benny Medina they do everything they can to include all of us in any aspect of her musical life, whether it's a film that she's doing, a commercial, a TV show. They do everything they can to always think about us first. Whenever they can, which is most of the time, if you're J-Lo, you can kind of dictate what's going to go on. So her manager, Benny Medina, approached me and said that she was doing a commercial, and it was with a agency out of New York for her new perfume. And, we just had, honestly, the whole conversation was over text messages, maybe a 1-minute phone call about, where he thought the creative direction would be. And they sent it over with a temp track. And it was good to know that J-Lo and Benny didn't like the temp track. So that helped me know, don't use that as the temp track as a little indicator on what they wanted. So I kind of spoke to him about, what I wanted to do, but we all know that, it's very hard to talk about music. So I just kind of told him what I wanted to do, and I would send him over a ref. And what's luckily for our J-Lo family is that they know they don't get, usually I don't send refs. I only send finals, even when their demos are refs, because you know how that is. But because we work together all the time, I could just kind of send him a ref, and he liked the direction. And then I went forward with it, and then she signed off on it. I think she might have had 1 or 2 notes. He might have had 1 or 2 notes, and typical, the agency might have had 1 or 2 notes, and that's how it happened. That may have been maybe the 3rd or 4th non-live thing I had done for the J-Lo team. Right. And so there was a DSW commercial that came from that, and a film, and all these other things. So, but that's how it happened. Like we talked about earlier, I worked with her on the live side, but a commercial came out of it.
That's so awesome, man.
Yeah.
Man, we could talk about this for another hour.
I know it. That means we just have to do it again.
Let's do this again for sure, man. I feel like you're such a great reference, and I know like your heart is like mine. You want to help people get to their next, and Absolutely. This is not like information we're trying to hoard so nobody else can get ahead. It's like, man, we can all win in this, and we want to help you guys get to your next. And that's what this is all about, So hopefully this has been helpful. And Kevin, you're amazing, and
you too, brother.
Dude, we got to start doing some music.
Yes, we're gonna be making some announcements hopefully soon, me and you.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, information to share is so important. It's like, analogy I like to use is I can have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the room with me right now, telling me everything to do to get a 6-pack, but I still have to do it. So you and I can tell everybody what to do, every piece of information, but no one's gonna have a voice like your voice. So I can tell you how I do things, every technical thing, every piece of gear, but you're still going to turn those knobs differently. I can tell you, here's F major chord. You're going to voice it differently than the way I voice it. So if you share information, if you understand that the more you kind of, as my grandmother used to say from the South, is that if the more you try to squeeze water, it goes out your hand. You have to have water and extend, because that's the only way it works, is if we give and give back. Then you don't do it to get something back, but it's just the right thing to do. And I just wish that if we can help somebody from being depressed or wanting to quit, and the world not hearing your music because you quit, or you can't feed your family because music's not making enough money, I don't think any one of us want that. I want to share because I want to see everyone win, because there is enough room for everybody to win. And there's more TV channels, not less. There's more TV channels, there's more streaming. Everybody needs music. Everybody needs an MD. Everybody needs a song. So, and the more we share, it just keeps making better music out there. So we all get the benefit of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Well, thank you, brother. And I hope you guys that are watching are inspired to go out and make some great music, and also to explore some of these things in film and TV. And so, like, is there a way they can reach you?
Sure. They can go to at Kevin C. Teasley on Instagram. And the other one is at tonic_music_creative at Instagram. And if they send me any questions, anyone to tell you, I'm really good that if you direct message me or email me, I'm really good about responding to questions. Or if you post it on my timeline, I'm really, really good about questions. Just make sure the questions are, concise and, asking specific things. I'll make sure I'm a good service to you by answering you if you're real clear about your question.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Hang on, and we'll talk once we go off live.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central. Hopefully, assuming that nothing else is pressing, but I like to do this. I'm trying to do this every Sunday night. And Kevin Teasley, you've been just awesome. And
thank you. You too.
Thank you, bro. And
all right.
We'll now managing technology. I have to figure out how to stop this stream. So,
right.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Love you guys, and God bless you. I'm gonna go out with my little intro video, and we will talk again next Sunday night. Hopefully, you guys join me. And also, I will say, it would really help this thing to get it out there if you guys would hit that share button, share and like it, and get it out there. That would be awesome. Appreciate you. All right, here we go.